Not being chosen doesn't just disappoint you, it threatens something. And if you've ever felt yourself start to perform, chase, explain, or shrink after a no, this episode is going to tell you exactly why. Welcome back to Unapologetically in Power. I'm Jennifer Damascus. This month, we're talking about what happens when things don't work out the way you expected, because that's where your leadership gets revealed. In episode 37, it was frustration and the law of lid, your capacity to stay in authority under stress. In episode 38, it was forcing it and the law of process, or leading the process daily instead of trying to dominate your outcome. The last episode was the mirror and how to use setbacks as data instead of a diagnosis. Today, we're talking about a specific kind of doesn't work out that hits deep. It's when you're not chosen. So you didn't get picked. You didn't get the promotion. You didn't get the client. You didn't get the invitation. You didn't get the relationship you wanted. You don't get the apology. And what happens next is rarely logical. It's usually identity. And we're going to match this to a Maxwell law that is foundational. It's the law of solid ground. So the law of solid ground, Maxwell teaches that trust is the foundation of leadership. My translation is, when you're not chosen, your leadership is tested on one thing first. Can you stay on the solid ground with yourself? Because if you lose self-trust, you'll try to buy belonging. And that is where self-abandonment starts. So let's name what gets activated when you're not chosen. I call it the abandonment wound. And it's the part of you that learned, if I'm not chosen, I'll be left. If I'm not wanted, I'm not safe. If I don't adapt, I'll lose connection. So in everyday terms, it sounds like, what did I do wrong? If I could just explain it better. Maybe I asked too much. Maybe I should be more chill. I really shouldn't have said that. I need to fix this. And here's what's important. The abandonment wound doesn't always show up as sadness. Sometimes it shows up as overfunctioning, people-pleasing, proving, chasing, negotiating your standards, because the nervous system is trying to prevent the feeling of being left. So the moment after the no, let's talk about this moment right after you're not chosen, because that is where the pattern locks in. You get the email, you see the post, you hear the feedback, you realize you weren't picked. And then your system goes into one of these. Chase, which is let me follow up, let me convince, let me prove. You shrink, which is let me be less, let me want less, let me need less. Perform, let me become who they'll choose next time. You freeze, oh, I'm done, I'm not trying again. Or you fawn, it's fine, I'm fine, I didn't even want it. And none of those are authority. They are protection. So here's a line I want you to borrow. Being chosen is not the same as being safe. Because a lot of women have learned to equate attention with safety, approval with safety, being wanted with safety. So when you're not chosen, your body reacts like this is dangerous. But it's not dangerous. It's disappointing. It's painful. It might be unfair, but it's not a threat to your worth. And if you treat it like a threat to your worth, you'll start bargaining with yourself. So let's talk about the law of solid ground. Trust is the foundation of leadership. And yes, trust with other people matters. But today I want to talk about the trust that comes first, which is self-trust. Because if you don't trust yourself, you will outsource your stability. You'll let other people's choices decide what you're allowed to want, what you're allowed to ask for, what you're allowed to expect, what you're allowed to believe about yourself. Where solid ground is when you can say, I can be disappointed and still stay congruent. I can be hurt and still keep my standards. I can be rejected and still not reject myself. And that is leadership. So, how does this abandonment wound show up in real life? It looks like you lower your prices after someone says no, without actually evaluating the offer. You rewrite your boundaries to keep access to somebody. You tolerate disrespect because you don't want to be difficult. You over-deliver to earn loyalty. You accept vague commitment because you're afraid to ask for clarity. You stay in conversations that drain you because you don't want to seem needing. You chase closure from people who can't give it. And the cost is always the same. You lose solid ground. You lose yourself. One important note before we go into steps on how to regulate. If you're activated, tight chest, racing thoughts, that panicky urgency to text, fix, explain, or chase, you need to regulate first before doing the grounding protocol. Even 60 to 90 seconds, long exhale, feet on the ground, shoulders down, because you cannot hold solid ground while your body thinks it's in danger. Here's a 3-step protocol for the next time you're not chosen. The first step, name the event cleanly. Only one sentence. They didn't choose me. I didn't get the promotion. The client said no. No story, no verdict. Just the event. Then the second thing we need to do is we need to name the self-abandonment impulse. So finish this sentence. My abandonment wound wants me to chase and convince, shrink my standards, over-explain, pretend I don't care, say yes to something misaligned so I'm not left behind. And this is where you reclaim your choice, because once you can name the impulse, you don't have to obey it. The third step is choosing a solid ground action. So you need to be asking yourself afterwards, what would self-trust do next? Solid ground actions look like not sending the follow-up text from a flooded state, asking for clarity instead of accepting vagueness, holding your price and improving your messaging. Again, data, not desperation. Letting someone be disappointed in you. Ending a conversation that requires you to betray yourself. Grieving privately instead of performing publicly. This is the part that's uncomfortable, because self-trust often feels like loss at first, but it's not loss. It's leadership. Let me say this cleanly. The goal is not to be chosen. The goal is to be congruent. Because if you're chosen by betraying yourself, you still didn't win. You just rented the belonging. And that always comes with a cost. Just pause here. You are allowed to be disappointed. You are allowed to grieve. And you are still responsible for your leadership. Two things can be true, and this is where mature leadership lives. So if you've been in a season where you weren't chosen, where you didn't get picked, promoted, selected, prioritized, I want you to hear me. You are allowed to be disappointed. You are allowed to grieve. And you are still responsible for your leadership. So this week, practice solid ground. Name the event. Name the self-abandonment impulse. Choose one self-trust action. And the next episode is our final one in this series. It's the rebuild. It's how to recover after it didn't work out, without isolation, without overfunctioning, without trying to do it all alone. We'll match that to the wound underneath it and the Maxwell law that helps you rebuild with support. Thank you for taking the time to be here with me. I'll see you next time on Unapologetically in Power.